Hey gang, welcome to the first edition of Dockschlock Top 10s for 2016, and just like I did last year, I'm doing my own personal picks of the top 10 worst horror movies I reviewed in 2015. 2015 was just an absolute insane year of reviewing really bad horror movies. But I had a lot of fun doing it, and I hope you guys enjoyed watching all the videos I did last year. But getting through dozens and dozens and dozens of really bad horror movies, it can make your brain rot. Or in my case, I just kept asking myself, could it get any worse? Let's get this bad boy going with number 10, and it's Edges of Darkness, a sort of anthology horror movie revolving around the zombie apocalypse and people living in the same building. Yeah, it sucked. Number 9, Silent Madness in 3D. Really bad 3D effects, a maniac on the loose, and incredibly stupid. Number 8, speaking of 3D, it's Shark Night 3D. It definitely was no Jaws, maybe more like Jaws Revenge. Okay, maybe not that bad. Number 7 goes to Terror Tunes. Two things about that title I can tell you that's not involved in this movie. Nothing terrifying and hardly any tunes. Number 6 goes to Microwave Massacre. An incredibly, insanely bad movie. It was actually labeled the worst horror movie of all time, but pretty close. Number 5 goes to Secrets of the Clown. I don't really hate clowns, but I'm really starting to hate clown horror movies. Number 4 goes to Hollywood Meat Cleaver Massacre. Oh man, Christopher Lee, God rest your soul. Number 3 goes to The Brain Sucker. It's an incredibly badly acted on purpose kind of movie. Number 2 goes to Cheerleader Camp to the Death. The first one was bad, but this one was much worse. But my personal pick for the worst horror movie of 2015 that I had to review goes to Leprechaun Origins. Oh, was I warned about this one? Was I so warned that this one was going to be bad? And it really was. So there you guys have it, my own personal picks of the top 10 worst horror movies I reviewed in 2015. It was a tougher list to try and do than I did last year, but looking over the list, I'm sorry gang, Leprechaun Origins had that number 1 spot. There was no doubt about it. I don't think there was any other movie that could have really made me feel sicker to watch than that one. Cheerleader Camp to the Death, that was actually originally reviewed by Aaron Penn, and he talked about how really bad it was, and when I watched it, he wasn't kidding. It was an incredibly bad movie. The Brain Sucker, which should have been the worst movie I watched and reviewed in 2015, but after watching Leprechaun Origins, close. Hollywood Meat Cleaver Massacre, again, the only thing good in the movie is Christopher Lee, and he's at the very beginning and the very end. Everything in between sucked. Secrets of the Clown, incredibly confusing, incredibly bad, just really unwatchable. Microwave Massacre, again, a movie that was labeled the worst horror movie ever made. I don't know, it was bad. I mean, there were just so many extremely idiotic moments in it, and just that ending where the wife's head is in the refrigerator and her eyes glow and everything like that. Yeah, they couldn't do that in at the end of Friday the 13th Part 3, but they say, we can do that for Microwave Massacre, why not? Terror Tunes, just a really incredibly bad horror comedy. Again, like I said, there was just nothing scary about it. The so-called tunes in it, I mean, there's a little animation in the movie, but it's just god-awful. Shark Night 3D, really didn't like it. I felt that it was just an incredibly, insanely bad horror movie. The 3D effects. I'm not big on 3D effects, honestly, because when you have to watch them without the glasses or any kind of way to watch it, the 3D effects looks kind of stupid and boring. And same thing with Silent Madness. I mean, that one, I'll tell you the truth, Ape, the 3D effects in it were bad, but the effects in Silent Madness were way worse. And Edges of Darkness, again, sort of an anthology horror movie that really was about, three different couples in an apartment, and strange stories, but they all kind of revolved around each other. And that was the really weird part about that, because it might have been 3 different stories, but somehow, some way, they kind of intertwined with one another. And yeah, one of the worst zombie horror movies I've watched in a long time. But there you guys have it again. Top 10 worst horror movies I reviewed in 2015. And it took a lot to try to figure these bad boys out. Next Tuesday, I hope you guys will tune in for that. I'm going to be doing the top 10 worst holiday horror movies I reviewed in 2015. And sadly, there wasn't that many to pick. I don't mean, I didn't think there were any that were bad. It was just I didn't really review a lot of holiday horror movies last year. But I'm going to try and change that this year, because apparently there are those kind of movies are just coming out of the woodwork, and I got quite a few in mind I'm going to watch. But the weird thing is that I try to watch any kind of holiday horror movie I can, but what are the 2 ones that come out the most? You got one for Halloween, you got one for Christmas. And that kind of gets a little irritating, You sit there and kind of go like, well, what else is there? And you find out they do horror movies around certain days that you don't even expect, like Labor Day. Yeah, that was a pretty big shocker right there. But that's going to do it for this edition of Doc Schlock Top 10s. If you have a top 10 that you would like for me to do for you sometime, send it to me in a message, and send me your picks from number 10 to number 1. And of course, still need you guys' picks for the worst video game-based movie. You can pick any of them, gang. Super Mario Brothers, Double Dragon, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, Alone in the Dark, Blood Rain, anything. Doesn't have to be horror. It's just, if it was a video game turned movie and you thought it absolutely sucked, send it in, and we can do this thing again like we did with the top 10 worst horror movie remakes. And for the next few Tuesdays, there's going to be more of these special top 10s. Coming up soon enough, there will be top 10 worst horror movies requested by certain YouTubers. Some of them are going to have their own top 10s. And to wrap this bad boy up, I'm going to have a top 10 worst horror movies requested by several different YouTubers who, unfortunately, they requested. Some of them requested quite a bit, but they just didn't quite request at least enough to get them. So each one of them are going to get a movie pick in the top 10 plus a shout out. So hope you guys will tune in and check that out too. Well, gang, I got to get on out of here because 2016 has started. And it's going to be a fun and crazy year. Thanks for watching all throughout 2015, that too. And I hope you guys will continue watching in 2016. If you like my videos, feel free to subscribe. Until next time, as always, stay strong and rock on.